Mueller didn't go outside the four squares of this report in anything that he said. On the other hand, it's a matter of emphasis and what he chose to highlight. What do you make of what he chose to single out today in his final and only comments on the matter, if he can help it?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, he didn't go outside the report. On the other hand, what he did is so valuable, and I think shows why it would be valuable if he testified before Congress, even if he only talked about what's in the report. Because the report is dense, and he's walking us through it. Here he did it in 8 or 9 minutes. He highlighted, first of all, something that we know because we've read the report, but maybe not everybody does because it's been sort of obfuscated by allies of Trump, frankly, and Trump himself, that Russia attacked our election. They interfered in, quote, a systematic way. Boom. That's it. That's important. And he's telling Americans, pay attention to that. Don't let that go by. Second, he said, here's why obstruction of justice is important to investigate. It strikes at the heart of our justice system. You cannot let those crimes go unattended, uninvestigated. Third, he said, without saying it explicitly the way that we've been saying it, but he made very clear that the president was not charged with a crime because he couldn't be, but that there is substantial evidence of obstruction of justice. He also said, with respect to the Trump campaign, that he didn't find evidence to charge a prosecutable crime against members of the campaign with Russia's interference. He didn't say anything about no collusion. And I think that's important because, remember, after Barr's letter came out, before the report came out, the talking point became and still has been no collusion. And Mr. Mueller did not say that he didn't find collusion because that is not what he was looking for. So I think all of these points are really important that he chose to emphasize. And even if they're in the report, it shows the importance of walking the American public through these very basic points. And I hope that now Congress picks up that mantle more and does it in a more effective way. And I think that's what Mueller was asking them to do.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.